Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jane Hewitt and I'm the Capability Building Coordinator at Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand are part of the Info Exchange Group, a not-for-profit social enterprise that tackles the biggest social challenges through the smart and creative use of technology. And for those of you who haven't attended a webinar session with us before, Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand facilitate an annual training calendar of online webinars, workshops, boot camps and webcons to help the social sector upskill in all things digital. And you can check out our training and education menu on the websites for more details of courses coming up in the next few months. So welcome today to the webinar, How to Get the $10,000 Google Grant and Use It to Grow Your Organisation, with Melanie Gray from the Digital Crowd. And before we begin, we'll just start with a bit of housekeeping today. All lines are muted, so if you have any technical issues, please type it into the questions box on the GoToWebinar panel, and I should be able to assist. If you have any questions during the session, please also type them into the questions box, and Mel will be able to answer them in the Q&A that will be coming up at the end of this webinar. And please note that your comments and questions aren't going to be visible to the rest of the group. If you're on a Wi-Fi connection and have multiple programs open, this can sometimes affect the quality of the audio and the video of the webinar, so please do close any other programs that you're not using. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and this recording will be sent to you along with the slides towards the end of the day. And before we start, I'd just like to remind you that there'll be a short survey coming up at the end of the workshop, and we'd appreciate if you just take a few minutes to provide us with some feedback. So that is all from me. I will pass over to Melanie to get things started.
Thanks, Jane. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Thursday. And at last minute too, we only really decided to do this webinar about a week ago. So it's good to see you guys here, and I'm excited to share with you what I know in this short hour about the Google Ad Grant and how you can actually use it to grow your organization. So I'll just briefly give a summary of what we're actually going to cover today. Firstly, I'm going to start with what Google Ads is, just so that we're all on the same page about how the actual advertising platform works. And then I'll go into what the Google Grant is, how it's different to the regular Google Ads paid platform, and then most importantly, how you can apply for it and how you can use it to grow your organization. So they're all the things that we want to get covered in today's session. But before we start, I did just want to quickly throw up a poll just to get a bit of a sense of who's in the audience today, who already has the Google Ad Grant. I know, a few of you may, although this is really covering how we actually go about getting it. But if you could just fill out this poll just to get a bit of an idea of, where you guys are at in the process and if you already have it or not. So if you could quickly answer that question, we should get some results coming through shortly. And that will just, help. Okay, so that's fantastic. It looks like 100% of you don't have the grant. So that just gives me some context. You're in the right place. That's what we're here to do today. And I won't be regurgitating content for people who have already got it. All right, so let us just begin with a bit of an intro about myself. I thought that would be a good place to start so you know who you're listening to today. As Jane already mentioned, I'm Melanie Gray. I'm from the Digital Crowd. I actually have a few different business names. My own business is called the Ad Factory. I also work very closely with PN Digital, who is a partner of Connecting Up for Google Ad Grant accounts, and I help manage the Google Ad Grant accounts for their clients. The Digital Crowd is something new that we actually developed throughout COVID. We noticed that throughout this time, there were a lot of nonprofit organizations who needed help with the Google Grant, but didn't necessarily have the budget to outsource and pay an agency to do it for them. So the Digital Crowd is actually a collection of online courses specifically tailored for nonprofits to help them grow their organization. And at that way, they can learn at their own pace. It's sort of like a self-guided online course. So that's about a little bit about my businesses. I've been doing Google Ads now for 8 years. The first 3 years I was working for an agency doing all kinds of digital marketing, but I really did fall in love with Google Ads just because of how well it worked. And I was like, wow, I want to specialize in this. I really think that there's something, you know, really special here. And it was just quite different to a lot of other forms of marketing. And I think the best part for me was I really, you know, with some forms of marketing like social media and graphic design and things like that, even just, you know, building websites, it can be hard to justify, you know, the marketing spend that you put into it. It's the results are a little bit intangible. While we know that they're important, it's hard to figure out what they actually did to grow your organization. But with Google Ads, absolutely 100% of it is measurable. And that just gelled really well with me. I thought, you know, I don't have to do any justifying. The results do it for themselves. And that just sat well with me. I'm very numbers focused, and I thought, I want to specialize in this. So 5 years ago, I went out and set out my own business, specializing just in Google Ads, and that's what's led me here today. I've just included a few photos of my travels. I was fortunate enough last year, before COVID happened, to travel through Europe. I actually spent 7 months living in Europe and working remotely, which was a bit of a precursor to the COVID, you know, working from home. So I was already well experienced in that and made the transition very easy. But yeah, there's a photo of me and my partner. He also works remotely, so we're working from, that's Dubrovnik in Croatia, coincidentally, where Game of Thrones was filmed. That's what most people know that for. But yeah, beautiful city. I was very lucky to get all that out before COVID hit us. But yes, anyway, on to Google Ads. Okay, so what is Google Ads? Well, simply put, it's Google's advertising platform. And I'm sure many of you will actually have come across these Google Ads, whether or not you know it, just in Google searches. So if you type anything into Google, mainly any product or service, the first few results will typically be ads. And you can tell that they're ads because they've got the word ad in bold in the left-hand side. Almost all results will have ads at the top, aside from a few things like if you're looking for general information, like typing in a question or looking up, you know, movies or something like that, they won't typically have any ads related to it. But anything that's a product or service, there'll be ads at the top. Now, these are separate from what we call organic listings. So the first 3 or 4 results will typically be ads, and anything below that will be an organic listing. Those people aren't paying to get there. They get there naturally for free through a process called SEO, or search engine optimization. We're not talking about any of those listings today. It's all just the ones that have the word ad above it, or sometimes at the bottom of the page. So through Google's advertising platform, it gives advertisers the ability to choose keywords that they want to target. So in this example screenshot here, we've got Charities Australia. That's a keyword that many charities, I'm sure, will have chosen to target that through Google Ads and show their ads as a listing underneath the search results. In this example, we can see the World's Greatest Shave, the Smith Family, and World Vision are currently ranking for that keyword. There would be probably hundreds of other advertisers that are trying to bid on that keyword. And yeah, throughout today, I will go into a little bit more detail about how and why some advertisers appear above others. So the standard Google Ads platform is run through something called pay-per-click bidding. What this means is that the advertiser only pays when a customer clicks on the ad. They don't have to pay just to show their ad. It's only when a user clicks on it and visits their website. So in that sense, it's really great that, you know, you're only paying for actual eyeballs to the website, not just an advertisement for your brand as a whole. Now, it is a little bit different for grant advertisers because Google gives you a grant to help you pay for this, but that's how the traditional method works. Now, the cost that you pay per click is actually different for every single click, every single keyword, every single advertiser. It's always a different price. And the reason for this is that it's actually run on an auction-based bidding system. So the price differs depending on how many other advertisers there are bidding for that keyword and how much they want to pay. And I'll get into more detail about that in a little bit further on throughout this. So that's sort of a snapshot of what Google Ads is, the paid platform. It's a little bit different for grant advertisers. So what is this Google grant? Google gives eligible registered charities up to $10,000 in advertising spend per month. So that's actually $120,000 per year. It's a huge amount, and these campaigns can have a significant impact to help grow your organization if you get this grant and if it's used wisely. So this spend is actually broken down to a daily amount, which is $329 per day. This grant, it can only be used in the Google Ads platform. They don't actually give you that $10,000 into your bank account to spend as you want per month. It's just a digital figure that's put in on the screen that you can use specifically just for Google advertising spend. This grant does come with some advertising restrictions. The grant advertisers don't have as much flexibility to target whatever they want, like paying advertisers do have. And again, I will go into a little bit more detail about that without being too technical about what those restrictions are. So who's eligible? Firstly, well, almost all charity organizations are eligible, except for these ones listed here in point 2. So governmental entities, hospitals and medical groups, schools, academic institutions and universities. However, philanthropic arms of educational institutions are eligible. So aside from those categories, almost every other charity organization will be eligible. I've put the technicalities here because a lot of people do ask for clarification about what's a charity organization. So you either need to be, firstly, you need to be registered with Connecting Up or TechSoup in New Zealand. You either need to be a deductible gift recipient, a registered charity with ACNC, or an income tax exempt non-profit as defined by the ATO. And I've popped this link in here just to get a little bit more clarification about the technicalities involved in who's eligible. But more or less, most organizations are eligible to, nonprofits are eligible to get this grant. Google doesn't really have a set number of how many grants they give out, per month. I think, well, they do. They've got a dollar amount, which is, they increased it over COVID, and it's just hundreds of billions of dollars. So from what we've found, there's never really scarcity in the amount of grants that Google are giving out. You have a lot to do about your website. Google don't want to send traffic to a website that's really poor quality. So, we can't be sending them to a Facebook page. It has to be a legitimate website. It'll have to be secure. It'll have to be user-friendly. Most charity organizations should hopefully already have a decent website in place. However, when you go through the application process, Google will give you feedback about, hey, these are the things that you need to do to improve the quality of your website, if anything. And though that feedback really differs per, it's on an individual basis per organization. So it might be that you need to make it clear that you actually are a charity. That's really probably one of the more common ones that we see, either having the ACNC logo or number somewhere on the site to make it very clear, and making sure that your organization's mission is really clear. Like, what are you trying to achieve? And there has to be limited commercial activity. So you can have a little bit, like you can sell, some nonprofits have like an e-commerce store sort of as a segment, as a portion of the website, and that's fine as long as the e-commerce site isn't the sole activity of the website. And usually they just make sure that you make it clear that that any sales made through that e-commerce site is actually going back to your organization and how it's being used. So that's usually the type of thing that Google will come back to, you guys saying what needs to be improved. All right, so as I mentioned before, the Google Ads platform works on an auction basis. So what that means is, for any particular keyword that you decide to target, there are potentially, hundreds of other advertisers wanting to also target that keyword. So whose ad's going to show? We can't have them all. As we know, there's only maybe 4 listings up the top of the page and maybe 4 below. That would be 8 at a time. That's definitely the maximum number. And often there's actually only less that are shown. So how does Google determine whose ads are shown? Well, a lightning fast auction actually takes place the moment every single person is typing into Google. So for example, if they were typing in Charities Australia, Google's algorithm will scan all the advertisers who are trying to bid for that keyword, and it will rank them depending on the bid that they're willing to pay for that keyword, the quality of their ad, and the expected click-through rate. So it's not all just about whoever has the most money and who can bid the highest will get shown first. You have to have a really high quality of ads. And this is how Google sort of monitors the platform to make it fair for organizations of all sizes and businesses with all kinds of budgets. So small businesses can still sort of get a foot in the door here and use Google Ads to promote their business. They do it a lot on quality. Now, quality really depends on, making sure that your ad's well written, but also making sure that it aligns really tightly to the keyword that was targeted and the ad that is being shown. So for example, if we use maybe the RSPCA as an example, and the user was typing in pet rescue or dogs to rescue, dog adoption, that sort of thing, and their ad showed that they were, an organization a pet rescue organization where you can adopt dogs, and then they click on the website and their website is all about adopting dogs. That's really aligned, and they will get a very high quality score for the keywords that are about that, like pet rescue and dog adoption. If they just wanted to target, say maybe border collie dog food, that's a little bit less relevant because their website's not all about dog food and border collies. It's specifically about rescuing dogs. While there might be a little percentage of their website dedicated to informational content, it's likely the quality score will be a little bit lower. And on top of that, if they wanted to target, I don't know, something random like shoes, they would have like a 1 out of 10 quality score because their website's got nothing to do with shoes. So Google has inbuilt mechanisms to sort of determine what quality your ad is and how relevant that is to the keyword. So Google will actually take into account all those sort of cues when deciding which ad to place. So there is a lot of science and research that goes in behind the scenes to figure out what keywords you should rank for and how you can improve your rankings. Now, I did mention that the Google grant does have some restrictions, especially in comparison to paid advertisers. And I'll just go through them briefly without getting too technical about, exactly how the ad platform works, because if this is something that you do pursue, you will have to learn a lot more about the mechanisms that go on behind the Google Ads platform. But these are the main ones. So firstly, you must maintain a click-through rate of 5%. If you fail to do this, your account can actually be suspended and you'll be at risk of losing the grant. So what does that mean? Basically, a click-through rate is how many people clicked the ad out of how many people saw the ad. So if 100 people saw your ad and 5 of them clicked, that's a click-through rate of 5%, and you'd be eligible to show your ads for that keyword, and your account will keep on running. If you target maybe a less relevant keyword, like in that example before, if the RSPCA were targeting the keyword shoes, it's very unlikely that people are actually going to click on their ad. If they're typing in shoes and they see an ad for pet rescue, no one's going to click. So if they got 1 click out of 100, it would only be a click-through rate of 1%, and they wouldn't be eligible to continue advertising for that keyword. This grant restriction actually applies to the account as a whole, not per individual keyword. So as long as in general, all the keywords in your account, you're getting a click-through rate of 5% or higher, you'll be fine and you'll be able to continue advertising. So this is just something that you have to stay on top of. It means that the Google grant advertisers, or Google maintain a really good sort of user experience for Google users. You know, when they type something into Google, the ad that's shown is something relevant. And this is one of the ways that Google maintains that quality. The next restriction is that we have to have a quality score of 3 out of 10 or higher for our keywords. If our quality score falls below that, if it's 1 or 2 out of 10, we have to pause it. Otherwise, again, we'll be at risk of suspension. And yeah, Google have definitely been known to just suspend the grant account if people aren't managing it correctly. So what's a quality score? It's just a measure that Google put on your keywords, and it's determined by a few things, like I was describing before, you know, the relevancy of the keyword to your ad, the landing page experience, and the expected click-through rate. Google will take all of that into account, give each individual keyword a quality score, and you'll be able to see that and pause any that fall below that 3 out of 10 threshold. We're also not allowed to target single word keywords or generic keywords. So a single word keyword, for example, is charities. Just charities, that's one word. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do it. We can't just target dog or report or, you know, whatever it might be. It's just too broad. You know, we don't know what the user is actually searching for when they type that in. They could just be looking for information or Wikipedia or, you know, we don't really know what. So Google sort of have put a blanket ban on single word keywords. So you just need to make sure that you've always got 2 words. So charities Australia, charities Victoria, dog charity, something more descriptive than just the word charity. Again, if you accidentally put these in, Google will flag that, and you can be at risk of suspension. So it's really important that, you know, with this amazing grant that's $10,000, you can get so much traffic to your website, but you have to use it responsibly. Basically, you can't just forget about it and you know, leave it generating traffic and you're not really checking what keywords are coming through or if they're good quality or not. You know, you need to stay on top of it to ensure a good user experience for everyone. That's the basic guidelines of it. Next is that you must have relevant geo-targeting. Now, you'd want to do this anyway. It makes sense if you're targeting all of Australia, set your ads to show Australia-wide. If you're only a local charity, you know, for example, in Geelong, just target Geelong, or maybe a whole state if you're in Victoria. You know, just don't set it to target the world by accident. Or, you know, if you're in New Zealand, don't set it to, and you don't if you're in New Zealand and you service both Australia and New Zealand, you can, you know, target both. You don't have to just be in the country that you're targeting. You know, you might have a charity that helps people overseas, so you can definitely target, you know, whatever countries they are. It just has to be relevant. So if you don't service people in that country or state, you can't target them. That's one of the restrictions. The next one is that bids are capped at $2 for grant advertisers, which can make it a real challenge to outbid paying advertisers. And by default, anyone who's under the grant program, their ads will actually be shown beneath paying advertisers. So we're already sort of at a disadvantage there. And then we've also got this $2 cap, which can make it really, really challenging to actually spend the $10,000. You know, it's bittersweet. They give you this $10,000 and then it can actually be quite a challenge to use it. So one way to get around this is, well, there is a way to get around this, which is through a smart bidding mechanism called maximize conversions, or anything that's tracking conversions. So a conversion is sort of a piece of, or basically a conversion is whatever you want the user to do once they get to your website. You know, whether that's pick up the phone and call you guys, send an email, fill out the contact form, join as a volunteer, make a donation, download a PDF, you know, book an appointment, whatever it is that you're trying to get the user to do on your website, we can actually set up like a conversion recording of that action. So we can see out of all the people who came to our website via Google Ads, how many made a conversion. And if you begin tracking this and send that information back to Google, you'll be able to bypass that $2 bid restriction. So as I mentioned, it can get a little bit technical. If you do get, if you are eligible for the grant and get accepted, there's a huge learning curve that comes with this whole channel of advertising. And lastly, the next one is you must have 2 active ad groups and site links per campaign. Again, this is more of a structural thing that you'll come across when learning how the keywords are structured. So they're put into something called ad groups. And that's something that, you'll have to be aware of when actually putting these campaigns live. How to apply? I'm sure this is what everyone is wondering. So you can apply through Google for Nonprofits, which the link is there. That's the first step. There are actually quite a few steps involved in the application process, and Google do try and make it as simple to do as possible. However, we have had we've noticed a lot of our clients struggle with this process. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of different websites you have to go through. So you have to go through TechSoup. You'll have to go through Google for Nonprofits. You'll also have to go through Google Ads. There's, a lot of different steps. So I've actually created a how to apply walkthrough, which is a video, which was part of the course that I created to step you through this process. So I've got the link there. If you want to, if you do start the process and end up needing a bit of guidance, that's one option for you. I've also added a handout to this webinar, which you can download. It's a PDF you can download with the step-by-step instructions. Obviously, it's not a walkthrough, it's not a video, but that's definitely something that can help point you in the right direction in terms of which website to go through first and the whole process of that. All right, so I wanted to get a little bit more into depth about what you can do and how to use Google Ads, basically. So I've mentioned that it's all based on keywords. Now, $10,000 is a lot of money, especially if clicks are around $2 or $3. In general, some are 50 cents, some are $8, some are 15. It really depends on every individual keyword. The only way that you can find that out is by doing some research. So Google actually have a free tool called the Keyword Planner. When you go and create a Google Ads account, you can go in there, you can type in a few keywords. So in this example, we've got things like dogs for sale, adopt a dog, pet rescue, kittens for sale, etc. You can put a few of those in and Google will actually give you statistics about what sort of metrics you can expect. How many people are searching for those keywords in Australia or in your target area per month? Out of those searches, how many people will actually click on your ad? And then it will also tell you things like the expected click-through rate, which we now know is very important as we have to maintain it above that 5% threshold, and the expected cost per click. In this example here, you can see that many of the keywords are around about $1 to $2. So anything under that $2 threshold, they should be fine. They'll be eligible to target that. Anything above the $2 threshold, they'll have limited exposure unless they import those conversions and use the maximize conversions bidding strategy to help them show their ads for it. But basically, you don't need to, well, it'll be very hard. You'll probably end up with, 1,000 keywords at the end of the day. And figuring out what those keywords are can be quite a challenge. So we highly recommend using this keyword research tool. You can pop in, 5 to 10 keywords that are relevant to your organization. Google will typically churn back, over 100 of more relevant keywords. So you can start to get your brain thinking about possible keywords that you can show your ad for. So once you've got your keywords down pat, the next step is to create your ad. And I did show you the example when we typed in Charities Australia of 3 different nonprofits that were showing for that keyword. basically these are text ads. So we've got the option of adding 3 headlines, and we have a character limit of up to 30 characters. We can add 2 description fields, which appear below the headlines of up to 90 characters each. We have a display URL, so they can see your website address underneath the headline. And the way that they work is these 3rd and 2nd description fields are actually optional. There's not always enough space to show. So you want to make sure that your headline 1 is the most important one and your description 1 is the most important one. So these are sort of the components of an ad, and this is what's involved in creating search ads, basically. So when a Google user types in your keyword, the ad will show like this. So in this example, we've got pet rescue and the Lost Dogs Home advertising beneath that. So they've got the Lost Dogs Home, which is their brand name, in the first headline. They've got their second headline, which is Melbourne-based animal shelter. And they don't have a 3rd headline showing in this example. As I mentioned before, they don't always show. Beneath that, we've got their 2 90-character description lines. So in this part, you really want to use it. It's not very much text. It's not like a massive print ad with imagery. You really have to be succinct and get to the point. Tell the users the main call outs of your organization. What are you here to do? What do you stand for? So for example, they've written, we compassionately care for lost and unwanted dogs and cats. Services include shelter service, pet training, pet adoption, and vet clinic. Search lost and found pets. Now, everything below that are what we call ad extensions. They're little bits of snippets you can add to sort of make your ad look bigger. We've got call out extensions here. So the call outs that they've mentioned are established in 1910, pet ownership resources, donate today, and a few services that they've got. And then below that, they've got site link extensions. So there's quite a lot that goes into it, and we recommend adding as many ad extensions as possible because it will make your ad bigger and give you kind of more Google real estate. You'll get a bigger piece of your listing will be bigger compared to other advertisers. So this is one element that can kind of get you above the other advertisers and give your ad more of a chance to show. Okay, so I've given you a bit of an overview of how the platform works, and now is a good time to ask, is Google Ads the right platform for what I want to do? The reason that we've included this is because we've found in the past that a lot of people have an idea. They've got maybe an event coming up, or they've got this new service or product that they want to tell their audience about. They want everyone to know, and they say, hey, let's get traffic through Google Ads to our website. And that's exactly what Google Ads for. It's for getting traffic to your website. The thing that we need to think about is it's all keyword based. So your audience need to be searching for this product or service previously. It's not really a good way to let them know about a new event or product or service that you've just created. It's not really a brand awareness strategy. They need to already have the need for it, or the want or the desire. So in this sense, it's what we call a pull marketing strategy. We can get out the audience to come to us when they're actively searching for something. We just appear and they can come to us. This is different to what we would call a push marketing strategy, which is when we push our products and services onto our audience. So if you do have an event coming up, or you've got some sort of service that you're offering that no one knows about yet, you would typically use a push marketing strategy for that, to get that awareness out. You would maybe go to social media and push it out onto all your channels, or your email campaigns to let all your subscribers know. Or more traditionally, doing a billboard or a print ad in a newspaper or magazine or radio. All those types of advertising are push marketing strategies. They're all going out to the audience and say, hey, we exist and this is what we do. Google Ads is uniquely different because you have to wait for the user to take an action first. So they're there and they're going, oh, you know, I really want to adopt a dog. Who does that? You know, where can I find that around me? So they might type in pet rescue near me. They already have the one and they're actually coming to you. So this has a few pros and cons. The pro is that when you get the traffic to your website, it's typically really good quality traffic, really highly relevant. They're engaged. These people are in the market. They're already searching for it. So your conversion rates will likely be quite high. They'll probably take action if it's a relevant keyword. The downside is that you can't just use Google Ads to promote anything that they're not actually searching for yet. If they don't know about it, that it exists, like a unique service or a product or whatever it might be, they're not going to be there searching for it, and Google probably won't give you much traffic. We're limited with the amount of things we can do based on how many people are searching per month. We can never really go above that. We can't make people search more often. We can just make our ads show more often. So this is sort of important for you to, you know, get yourselves thinking about how you can use the Google Ads platform. Your audience, what are the things they're searching for? You know, even if it's not directly related to what you do, if it's just sort of indirectly related, you could potentially create a blog post about it and then get that traffic there. So yeah, that's one thing to think about, the abilities of what you can and can't advertise. So how do I know it's working? This is something I've already sort of touched on about conversion tracking. So again, just to remind you, a conversion is whatever action you want that user to take when they get to your website, whether that's a phone call, an email inquiry, a contact form, making an appointment, making a donation, registering as a volunteer, subscribing as a member. All of those things, you can actually set up separate conversion tracking options. And it does get a little bit technical. You can learn to do it yourself, or if you've already got a web developer, they will typically be able to assist with this. So we use a little bit of a website code, a bit of, you know, a pixel that you put on the website whenever that action has occurred. So, you know, if they fill out the thank you page and they get shown a thank you, if they fill out a contact form and they get shown a thank you page, you can set up a conversion to say, hey, anytime a user visits the thank you page, mark that as a conversion. Then you'll be able to see, okay, 10 people visited the thank you page this month. You know, we got 100 clicks from Google Ads and we had those 10 people register and visit the thank you page. You know, that's a conversion rate of 10%, which would be amazingly high, and you can tell that it's clearly working. If you don't set up conversion tracking, it's very difficult to know how much of an impact it's having. Obviously, if you just notice an influx of phone calls and inquiries, then you know it's doing something, but we've got the ability here to get really granular with this and see exactly what our return on ad spend is. So you can know how much out of that $10,000, what it's actually bringing into your organization and how much it's growing. You can track absolutely everything. And yeah, once you've got that data, it can actually help you optimize it and improve your campaign. So if you can see that one particular campaign, you know, is working better, so one particular service, then you can put more of the grant budget behind that campaign and less towards the others. And we've actually got something called the search terms report, in which you can see what the actual query was that the user typed in that triggered your ad. So you can actually see what people are typing into Google and use that to either give you more ideas or potentially exclude things. If you can see that you're showing up for the wrong thing, then you can add it as something called a negative keyword, which prevents your ads from showing for that keyword. So you've got a lot of control with this platform. Okay, so I've put in a few frequently asked questions because we get these all the time. So do I have to spend the $10,000 every month to keep the ad grant? The answer is no, thankfully, because it'd be really difficult to actually spend the full $10,000 unless you're actively managing it, or if you've got an agency to do it for you, that shouldn't be a problem. But initially, it can take a while to get going. So don't be put off if you do get the grant and you don't get traffic for a little while. $10,000 is a lot for Google Ads. You know, paid advertisers, a lot of businesses don't even spend that amount. So it's really a significant amount. And to use it, you have to add hundreds of keywords. So that can take some time to build. And in the meantime, no, at any point, you won't get suspended for not spending it. You know, Google only really want you to spend it if it's for the relevant keywords. They don't encourage you adding any old keyword, and just, you know, to make the most of the 10,000. And that's why they've put those quality sort of restrictions in place. Is it possible to accidentally spend over the grants allocation? No, it's not. So you don't actually need to put your credit card details in the account. So you'll never accidentally be charged, or, you know, overcharged for any of this. Can I spend the $10,000 on management or other digital marketing? The answer is no. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, this isn't actually a grant that goes into your bank account. It's just a digital figure that appears as credit in your Google Ads interface. So it can purely and simply only be spent on the clicks to get to your website, not management. Can I use the website homepage as the landing page or a more specific page? So this really depends on what the keyword is. If you decide to target a keyword like Charities Australia, and people are just looking for charities, maybe they're looking to make a donation over Christmas, or they're looking to partner with a charity organization or volunteer, and they type in something broad like Charities Australia, that's 100% fine to just go to your homepage, where it should say very clearly everything that your organization does. If they're typing in a more specific keyword, like for our pet rescue example, pet rescue might be fine to go to the home page, but if they're looking for adopt a dog, you might want to actually send them to the page where they can just straight away go and adopt a dog. If they're looking for adopt a cat, you can send them specifically to the adopt a cat page. And yeah, whatever your organization is, like, you know, well, something that applies to all of them is maybe volunteers. If they're specifically typing in volunteer keywords, send them to the volunteer page rather than just the home page. The volunteer page will be much more appropriate for them. You'll have a much higher chance of them actually going through with the conversion because there's less steps to find that page. And you'll also get a better quality score because the keyword about volunteering goes to your volunteering page. Same with, you know, donations. Not that many people are looking to typing in to donate. That's more of a push marketing strategy where you generate awareness for your cause. However, it is possible to target donation keywords. I'm sure there are, you know, a few people typing that in. And the last one is, do I need someone to manage my grant or can I do it myself? Now, this one really depends on your organizational capacity. So if you do get an agency to manage the grant for you, you'll typically see results much faster, and you don't have to allocate any internal resources to managing it or upskilling or anything like that. Obviously, there's an additional cost involved though. You know, agencies, they can charge anywhere from $500 to thousands of dollars a month. So it depends on the agency, it depends on your organization, it depends on a lot of things. And if you don't have that sort of budget to spend on services, then it's not the option for you. But the good news is you can learn to do it yourself. So there are a lot of resources out there. You can train yourself up to do this. As long as you have, you know, someone within your organization that has enough time that they can dedicate to doing this, because as I've sort of explained, there's a lot of technicalities that go on within this. So not just learning initially, but also managing the account. You know, you need to make sure that you're adhering to those restrictions, and spending the 10,000 and making the most of it can be a challenge. So you have to be in there a lot regularly to add those keywords. So really both are very valid options, and it's really just what's best for you. But you can definitely learn to do it yourself as long as you've got the time to invest in that. So if that is the option that you want to do, if you do want to learn to do it yourself, as I mentioned before, the digital crowd is all about, you know, we've created online courses, and I've created one specifically for nonprofits to help them learn how to master the Google Ad Grant. It covers everything from applying to it, to learning how to do it, learning the mechanisms, and actually managing it, and then optimizing it on an ongoing basis. So it's really a one-stop shop of everything that you need to know. There's 7 modules. It's up to 13 hours of content. And we've gone one step above, rather than just giving you the content and leaving you to it, because we know that a lot of people don't always follow through. They can lose momentum, and if they get stuck, it can be really hard to know what to do. So we've included monthly Zoom sessions. When you purchase this course, you'll get a monthly Zoom session, with a group session with myself and the other students. And it's a really small group. So, it's not one-to-one, but there's only a few people in the groups. So you won't be stuck with hundreds of other people. You'll actually get, a chance when you do come across something like, oh, why isn't my ad getting approved? Or why am I only spending $100 a month? You can actually ask me and we can troubleshoot it together to help you grow this. And we've got an offer on at the moment for Connecting Up members. So if you use the promo code end of year 20, we're offering 20% off the course price. And it's just a one-off fee. And then you get, monthly access to all these Zoom sessions. So I've included the link there, and I've also included it in the PDF download. I would definitely suggest having a look at the how to apply checklist, and then maybe the lesson about how to apply. And then, if you do start and figure out that you really need some help and you would like that, one-to-one or one-to-many sort of advice, that can definitely be an option for you. And that sort of brings us to the end. So yeah, now I'd just like to open it up to you guys. I hope you've been popping through some questions throughout this webinar. If not, definitely add some now. But Jane, did we have anything come through?
We just got one. Somebody asking how long you get to get up to that 5% click-through rate.
Fantastic question. So when you first get the grant, you've got 90 days to get your account into compliance. So there's enough leeway there. You should be in there regularly checking it, so you can, make sure that you're adhering to that threshold. Now, the easiest way to do it, if you are really on the edge and you're sort of not quite hitting it, you can just pause any of those keywords that aren't hitting that 5% threshold. That's sort of the quick win. It's not the best, because ideally we want to show for those keywords. You've added them for a reason. We don't want to just pause everything. But yeah, Google will give you some leeway before that will happen. So after the 90 days, you typically get an email. There is also a dashboard where you can check your compliance, so you're not just left wondering. And you should get an opportunity to fix those errors or those issues before there's a risk of suspension. But sometimes you have to create the grant account in a weird, like a random sort of Google email that you might not check all the time and you might miss it. If that's the case and your account does get suspended, it's usually pretty quick to fix the errors. Like, they'll tell you which keywords you're at risk for, and you can go and fix them. But the thing is, the review process on Google's end can take like 3 weeks sometimes, and in that time your ads will be paused and you can miss out on a significant amount of traffic. So you definitely don't want that to happen. But if you do get suspended, there's a bit of a grace period. Like, they will reinstate you after you fix your errors. But if you repeatedly violate the errors, you can be at risk of losing it completely. So yeah, that's in short, they give you a bit of leeway.
Perfect. And just one more question from Bronwyn. You mentioned that the not-for-profit is not meant to promote e-commerce sites. If you're wanting to promote an e-commerce site for a not-for-profit business, are there parameters around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, just to clarify, you can have an e-commerce sort of part of your website. What you have to do is just make sure that it's really clear that you are a nonprofit, and all those profits that you make from the sale of these products just be clear about how that's helping your mission, where that money is going, that should be fine. So it's just that the website as a whole can't have the sole purpose of commercial activity. But making it clear that any commercial profit is going back into the non-profit organization is typically sufficient. But it is free to apply. So once you go through that application process, Google will give you this feedback, and they should tell you exactly what you need to do to make it clearer about, to become eligible.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We don't have any more questions at the moment, so I will just say thank you very much, Melanie, for joining us today. And I will be sending out, obviously, these slides, and I've just taken a note of that offer, and I'll include that in the email that I'll be sending out to everybody. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It's been really interesting, very helpful. So yeah, thanks, Melanie, and we hope to see you again very soon.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I really hope that you guys got something out of it. I really encourage you guys just to start the application process. It can be really amazing. The $10,000 is a lot. It can really help to grow your organization if you get $10,000 worth of traffic to your website. So go ahead and just get started to see what you might need to do to be eligible. But as I said, more or less, mostly all charity organizations should be eligible. So hopefully you found this useful. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Hope to see everybody again very soon. And if you could just take a minute to fill out the survey that will be popping up in a second, we'd be very grateful. Thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. See ya.